I like the Browns. Browns are getting 6.5. In some places it's down to 5.5, but earlier in the week it was 6.5. And you got the number 1 rush offense against the number 2 rush offense. Browns being 1, Tennessee being 2. But when you go to the defensive side of it, Tennessee is only 17 against the rush, while Cleveland is 9 against the rush. But what I really like about this game is I think Tennessee's defense over the middle between that linebacker and safety zone is really vulnerable. And I think the quarterbacks, Mayfield and Tannehill, are probably a coin flip, but I really like Baker Mayfield in this spot. And I think that this is going to be a grind kind of game, but I think that Baker's going to find some passing over the middle, and he's got better wide receivers than Tennessee does. So 6.5 is just too many. I really like Cleveland in this spot. I think that 3 or 4 points defines this game. Wouldn't surprise me on either side who the winner was, but I really like Cleveland in this spot. They're a better team than a lot of people give them credit for.
Fly, right? And you land in 2020. And you see the Cleveland record, I mean, you're blown away. They have more wins than they have in the last 5 years combined, maybe?
They do, and they've spent so much time paying coaches that they've fired that it's amazing that they've been able to put together the roster that they have and the coach that they do. But they paid so many coaches not to coach there anymore that they haven't really been able to afford a big name coach to move on to. But they've done a great job this season, and they may lose the game, but I still like them getting the points in a game like this, which is just a grind out rush game.
All right, before we let you go to your next play, let me ask you about that. That was a pretty dominating performance against the Colts Tennessee had.
It was, but they had it coming, and it's a division matchup. So they played each other already, I think, 2 weeks ago, and the Colts gave it to them the same exact way 2 weeks prior. So I just washed that out. That's just brother and sister beating each other, 2 brothers beating each other up in the basement, and mom just kind of tells them to shut up.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's some sisters that I knew when I was growing that would beat us up too. So, all right,
yeah.
Give us another play on Sunday.
The other play that I really like is the Giants. As crazy as it sounds, the New York Giants are playing pretty well on defense. I like the quarterback play that they're getting, but the Giants don't lose big. The Giants really are not losing by 10 points. The only 2 times that they did was against Pittsburgh, which was the beginning of the season, and there was injuries everywhere and new coach and everything else. And they also played against a Niners team where the Giants had some injuries. So 10 points, it might even be 10.5 by kickoff. It's just too many. Seattle's defense is not good, although getting better. Even with the travel, when I look at an NFL game, anything over 7.5, I'm looking at the dog. And then when you look at 10 points, majority of the time, you just simply take the dog. There's no question Seattle's going to win this game, but the way that the Giants showed up against Tampa and they've showed up in games that they shouldn't have. This is not a bad Giants team. Their record is not a representation of what this team is. I am not a Giants fan. I'm not saying bet on them in futures, but I am saying that 10 points is too many. I think that it might be Seattle winning by 9 or 8 even, but Seattle may let them back in it. But this game is not going to be a blowout 20 points like some people would think. I love the Giants in this spot.
Well, we talked about it when I went on my little rant at the beginning of the show that there's a Giants team. That's what they are. They're 4-7. But guess what? If you're betting money on them every week, you're ahead. 7-4 is a little better than a coin flip. Not much better, because nowadays, remember in the old days, -110 was the standard. Now you sneeze and it's -115, -120, -125. And they'll sit on that number, especially if it gets to 3 or 7, and they'll sit there. Yep. It won't drop the number. They'll make you pay a $14 to win a $10 bill. But 7-4, you're still going to be a little bit ahead. So, yeah, the Giants are backing their fans with their play against the spread.
Yeah, and I just think, again, it's just too many points. And in the NFL, they don't have to win by 10 points. One win gets them the same place with the math in the standings that puts them in the right seed or in the right spot to win the division and puts them in the playoffs. College, very different with the 10-point spread. College, they need to win and look good doing it and impress the right guy that casts his vote that puts them in the right place. But in the NFL, a win's a win. Seattle does not need to win by 10. They need to win by 1, get out of there, and keep Russell Wilson from getting injured. And I think that the Giants are they're playing for a little bit different reason. I don't think that they're smart enough to lose this game and get another high draft pick.
It's so funny. Last week we talked about, and I'm going to segue this into our sports betting lessons program, but last week we talked about the fact that, when you have a big lead, that there's no reason to to not play prevent defense. And we talked about how I had never heard contact tracing as part of the handicapping vernacular. Well, really, if you think about it, when it comes to business decisions, in the last month or so, I have heard more sports announcers talk about business decisions. And I was explaining to Vicky because we saw it. This cornerback, this guy came around the end running hard. This cornerback wanted nothing. He didn't do an Olay, but it was really close to an Olay where he just kind of bailed on it. And those business decisions come into play when you're a double-digit favorite. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't think Russell Wilson is that kind of player. But again, the NFL is just very different in the sense of they don't need to run up the score. A win gets more mileage. It's this win by 1 is the same thing as win by 30. College at 10 points, I'd probably be looking at Seattle if it was the University of Seattle versus the University of the Giants, because you need to run up the score. There's such small margin in college between looking good and not looking good and who you beat, and there's so little matchups this year. You look at college and you look like Ohio State and Clemson, they both need to win and they need to look good doing it, and if they don't, they might not get the right vote. But in the NFL, Russell Wilson just needs to not get hurt and they win by 1. So in garbage time in the fourth quarter, while the Giants are trying to establish some type of consistency or identity with these young players, they may score a touchdown to bring it within 8. I mean, the game might open up and end up being a 17-point margin, but in the end, they're going to close it because, Chaz, the business decision you're talking about, why am I going to get one of the top quarterbacks in the league hurt? Why put DK Metcalf out? I mean, they may call off dogs, and it just feels right. And there's a lot of that going on right now. And COVID has made it very weird.
Yeah, so many points. Now, with our easy data sports program, I mean, understand, this is a proprietary software program that just crunches numbers. And it's got numbers. I mean, we're talking about, I think since 2012, we're talking about 8 years of NFL games. And we ran it last year when I think you were on that show. We talked about it. And I went for every double digit, and it was literally 50-50. Against the and it wasn't a few, because in the first few years there were only 3 or 4 double-digit dogs a year. This weekend there's like 3 or 4. All right, so
too many.
We're winding down. I do want to get to our sports lesson of the week. It's brought to you by sportsbettinglessons.com, and it's that one that Wes and I have talked about. Bet the last game first. And really, it's a simple thought. We're going to assume we're going to lose. And if you go in there assuming you're going to win, that's great. And I go in every time I walk into a casino, every time I log into joinyouwager.com, I expect I'm going to win. But I also know that the numbers are against me because, A, I have to bet at $11 to win 10, and B, there's point spreads involved. But one thing I do know, that is, if I run out of money, the team I wanted is going to win almost every single time. So here's the 3 cases, all right? You still have money in your pocket when that game comes. Well, good. You already got a little action. You add up on it. You've got no more money. Well, guess what? Now you've got a ticket in your hand. And, of course, the worst case scenario is that one. The middle is you've broken even for the day. And you could do whatever you want. You got some money in your pocket. But let me tell you right now, I have seen it with my own eyes. If it's a big play of yours and it's late in the day on a Saturday night or a Sunday and you run out of money, the chances of that team winning go up to 100%. I don't know how they know that I like that team, but they know. And remember, sportsbettinglessons.com, it really is. It's more about how you bet than who you bet. And both of you guys, that's the one thing I got going when I talk to you. Not really, I'm not just telling you two guys, because as you know, you guys have talked to us over the years. We have some really, really good handicappers that have called in and talked to us on our show. All right, so we've got a few minutes left. I want to talk about two things that I don't really talk about much is futures, but college basketball started and this COVID thing took March Madness from us. And if you like college football, then you know that March Madness is more than a sporting event. It's a spirit. It's almost a spiritual thing, especially when you can get together. There's guys that get together with their buddies, and that's the biggest weekend of the year. They like their wedding anniversaries. Christmas is great. Yeah, New Year's, Easter, they're all fine. But March Madness is a big thing. John, first, and then we'll go to Wes. Uh, do you have any years where you've actually done it? You picked the team that was going to win it, and you hit it in the future book.
Me personally, I am not a futures better. College basketball or really any sport, I don't get involved with that. I just kind of feel like it almost kind of ties up your money. It's one thing if you just want to lay 10, 20, $30 down on something, but I almost kind of feel, especially for college basketball and the NFL, going for 17 weeks, if you pick a future like that, I almost kind of feel that if you're betting big money on a future that you can almost kind of use that, for something else during the week. So me personally,
the last 4 months, Bitcoin would have been a better bet than an NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jump into Bitcoin, or right now the stock market's doing pretty well too. If you've been following that the last couple months, you probably would have made better returns on your money right now. So yeah, it's just the return on investment just really isn't worth it. To me, I'm not too much of a futures guy. Yeah, I think I remember it was in hockey. I think I remember when the Blues won it, there was somebody who got the Blues, at an extreme great value. But those are very few, far between. It almost doesn't really make any sense. Like if you're going to bet the favorite, at the end of the day, what exactly are you getting out of it? Your return to investment. If you're
because I've always told people, you know what, what can I do with that money in 4 months? I could really. Don't get me wrong, I could lose it the first day too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I remember that St. Louis Blues guys. The guy won some money at a crap table and threw $500 on the Blues as he was leaving town. That I don't have a problem with because, and again, a couple of years ago, there were 3 states that were legal. Now there's 23. So
now there's 20.
No, we're going to go to Wes. Same question, Wes. The March Madness, real big deal. Have you ever have you ever picked a winner in advance?
Well, I have not, and I agree with John to some extent. And you, what can I do with that money in 4 months? But what I will do with futures is if I win $10, I'll throw $1 onto something for the future. But I live in Kansas City, so if you ask anybody at the gas station, the grocery store, at work, KU's winning it all, and every year KU's going to win it all, and they somehow find a way not to. But if I had to pick, I think.
They're 7-2 every year. It seems like.
Yeah, it does seem like that. It's hard to bet against Nova and Gonzaga at this point. They're highly ranked and they look good.
No doubt about it. All right, and that's what I told people. If you are going to be betting college basketball, don't hesitate to sit around and start betting your bets at halftime because, golly gee, I don't know, and I could go through and check it if I had the data, but I got to think that the winning percentage of teams that are down double digits, that are giving double digits to start the game to win the second half, and sometimes they even come back and cover for the game. It's a pretty high number.